Michael? Nice to meet you. Very good. You got enough in mind? Okay. Yes. You're small. I'd say that's pretty good. Okay, Michael. So welcome aboard. This is the certificate from National U.S. Submarine Veterans Holland Cup Club membership, and it's presented to Michael D. Lanou. Is that correct? That's correct. Whereas having been designated qualified in submarines for more than 50 years and a member of U.S. Submarine Veterans in good standing, U.S. Submarine Veterans is extremely proud to bestow upon you membership in the Holland Club. Your induction into the Holland Club is testimony of your years of honorable and faithful service to the U.S. Navy and the submarine port. And it's granted this day, 11 April 2024. When you were qualified in submarines 1968 on board USS Queenfish SSN 651. Yes, sir. They got that all right then? I'm so glad. And this one's from us. So United States Submarine Veterans Holland Club, Rocky Mountain Base. So, Michael, welcome aboard. We are pleased to present you your Holland Club certificate, your patch, a coin, and your membership card. Presented on this day, this special occasion of recognition of your 50 years or more of submarine qualification and service to your country. National Commander William Andrea, Holland Club Chairman, and Jim Irwin and your shipmates take great pleasure in welcoming you as a member of the Holland Club. As far as here's your patch, here's your coin, and there's your membership card. So, welcome aboard. There we go. Great. All right. Thank you, guys. Okay, Holland Club. Mustard, the full team. Let's call the meeting to order. Oh, yeah, wait, what are you taking pictures? I'm the only one that's not. You're all good. There's three of you left. Four pound Dan. Well, I have to report. Okay, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Tom, would you like to start us off? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States is the republic of the States, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Fire.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for our meeting tonight, for those of in this group that were able to make it despite the bad weather. We just ask you, be with those that aren't here tonight, whether it's a choice of safety with the weather or whether they're sick. We just ask for healing if they're sick, and just ask that they can return to the meeting next month. We lift up the rest of the meeting, our agenda tonight, and the things that we need to accomplish, and just ask your guidance and wisdom on all of that. Well, thank you for the service of the men that are in this group tonight, the Holland Club of years plus, and I just thank you for that and for the service that they had to this country, the commitment. We lift our meeting up to you now, and help us to honor you and honor our creed in all that we do tonight. Amen.
The USSVI Creed perpetuate the memory of our shipmates
who gave their lives in the pursuit of their duties while serving their country. That their dedication, deeds, and supreme sacrifice be a constant source of motivation towards greater accomplishments. Pledge loyalty and patriotism to the United States of America and its Constitution. Please remain standing for the tolling of the bolts. USS F4, SS-23, lost on 25 March 1915 when it was floundered off the Honolulu harbor. 21 men lost. USS H1, SS-28, lost on 12 March 1920 when it sunk after being grounded off the Santa Margarita Island, Baja California, Mexico. 4 men lost. USS Perch, SS-176, lost on 3 March 1942 when it was sunk by Japanese surface attack 30 miles northwest of Surabaya, Java. 59 men were taken prisoners. 6 men died as POWs. 53 survived the war. 6 men lost. USS Grampus, SS-207, lost on 5 March 1943 by a Japanese surface attack on the Solomon Islands. 71 men lost. USS Triton, SS-201, lost on 15 March 1943 by Japanese surface attack off of New Guinea. 74 men lost. U.S. Telebi, SS-284, lost on 26 March 1944 north of Palu, sunk by her own torpedo. 1 man survived and was taken prisoner. 79 men lost. USS Katy, SS-369, lost after 20 March 1945 between Okinawa and Midway. Cause unknown. 87 men lost. U.S. Trigger, SS-237, lost on 28 March 1945 in the East China Sea during a Japanese air and surface attack. 89 men lost. In keeping with the USSVI creed, let us remain in a mood of reverence and respect while we take a moment to remember those submariners who have received their final orders and are now serving on internal patrol. The Rocky Mountain Base Internal Patrol List for March. Joseph McGowan, 3/13/2007. Louis M. Brickford, 3/19/2013. William Prinder, 3/22/2015. Edward O'Rourke, 3/24/2015. Please be seated. Holland Club, toast. We forgot the Ahuga horn, Vice Commander. Oh, we don't have it staged, but for both submariners, a submerged submarine provides a quiet and somewhat tranquil setting, free from many of the distractions present in everyday surface. So in keeping with that, we'll take them down for a regular meeting. Clear the bridge, take her down. Dive, dive. Ahuga, ahuga. We actually have a nice horn, we just forgot to get it out. Okay, we have a few members in here that are new, and so we'll go ahead and do a guest and roll call. So Helen, would you like to start us off? Let us know your name and what you qualified on.
Oh my. Outside of the US, was right, was ready to service. Also had a 95 35 years ago, with the ground door. London, my name was a scam, and said 588, 1983.
Whether or not qualified USS Narwhal in 671, December 1984. Your POB and the duty sloop. Robert Engler, qualified USS John Marshall, SSBN 611 Gold, 1971. Also served on 3 other boats. And I'm here with my lovely wife, Marcia. Richard? Richard Bond. I qualified for the USS Piper, SS 409 in December 1964. And I brought my neighbor, Terry Perillo, who was nice enough to bake us a coconut cake. So we can all enjoy that later on. Dan Chen, qualified USS Amberjack, SS 922, on October 11th, 1964.
Edward Martin, base commander, qualified Corporal SS 346.
I'm Jeff Mosul. I qualified on the USS George C. Marshall SSBN 654 Gold in January of 1981 and requalified on USS Daniel Webster SSBN 626 Blue.
Michael Lewis, qualified for Johnson Calhoun, SSBN 630 Blue, 1968.
My name's Mike Lanu. I qualified 1968 on the USS Queenfish, SSN 651. Jim Bradford, qualified on USS Marine, SS 243 in 1962. And I commissioned at Stonewall Jackson and served on the Astro and also the Sam Rayburn.
Andy Meverton, associate member, commissioning chaplain of USS Colorado on 18 March 2018.
I'm Ray Savard, qualified on the USS Stuck, SS 426, June of 1968.
JJ Mackin, qualified USS Japan, May 1972. Also served on USS Henry Clay, USS Cincinnati, and USS Lafon. And I brought tonight's guest speaker, Gary Francis. I'll let him tell about himself.
Hi, I'm Gary Francis. I qualified submarines on the USS Ticket. Oh, what's going on here? Okay. In June of 1971. I also served on USS Tecumseh as engineer. I went to Flying Fish as executive officer and had command of the Baton Rouge.
Good.
Grant. That's me. I'm Grant Day. I qualified on the USS Benjamin Franklin, SSBN 640 Blue in 1969. And I am your base treasurer, membership chairman, and webmaster. If anybody would like to take any or one of those, it would be great.
Alabama qualified under the Division 7 grad FFB and 631 Blue in November of 1916. And she doesn't need any introduction, but your storekeeper, Mrs. Bowman, is right over there with me. 9 years, 5 days.
Dan Ballard, USS Henry L. Simpson, qualified 1989. So I'm one of your youngsters here.
Cool. I get shoes also.
I'm Myra. I'm a nurse. I was in the Air Force, Vietnam era. And I'm here because I love submarines. And the guys are on.
And I'm Paul Lee, Space Commander. I was qualified on the USS William H. Bates in 1974, then into the La Jolla, and then the Tennessee after that. And I'm here with my lovely wife, Julie. Yay. Okay, so the next is a speaker. We'll before we get started on that, we do have a speaker for next month. His name is Ray Boyd, and you want Grant just to give us a little lowdown on what he's going to talk about?
Well, Ray was involved with the guidance systems for the Polaris missiles. So he was an engineer at with a microphone. So Ray was an engineer at I guess it was either Lytton or whoever made the guidance systems for the A2s, A1s, A2s, and A3s. So General Electric. Okay. Well, anyhow, so he's got some interesting stories that he's going to talk to us about how they made those things go straight.
Okay, and that's the last speaker that we have scheduled. So if you have any suggestions, anybody you know that would want to be a speaker for us, give me a holler and we'll try to set them up. Okay, so no further ado. Gary Francis, would you like to, you can come here at the podium if you like. I always like to be amplified. I don't normally need it, but I like it.
Good evening. My name is Gary Francis. I'm here to talk a little bit about what I did in the submarine force, but my main purpose is to introduce you to the Veterans Museum in Broomfield. And I'm the current president of the board of directors there and have had experience with that over the 20 years of its existence and wanted to sort of pique your interest and maybe if you're in the Broomfield area, you come and visit with us. My time in submarines, as I shared earlier, I started out, actually, JJ and I started out at the Naval Academy, and then right after the Naval Academy graduation, we went to Catholic University of America to study nuclear engineering, to get a master's degree. The Navy allowed us a whole year to get that degree. And then we were committed for at least a bazillion more years after that. So, and I met JJ, well, actually worked with JJ on that exercise. And then we went directly into the Admiral Rickover's nuclear power school. And that was kind of easy compared to the master's degree program in nuclear engineering. And it gave me some time to play with my wife and my new baby in Port Deposit, Maryland. I don't know whether anybody knows where Port Deposit, Maryland is, but it was where he had one of his schools. And we spent 6 months there learning the basics of nuclear engineering and a little bit of math and a little bit of physics. And then we went to a prototype where there's actually an above ground nuclear submarine in outside of Ballston Spa, New York. And spent time there, spent 6 months there working on qualifying as an engineering officer of the watch. And the trick there was to get qualified early so that you could actually stand some watches and do. I think I ended up doing about 40 reactor startups and shutdowns with new students that came in towards the end of the training. And every 2 months there were new students coming in, and the idea was they had instructors there, but they would really rather have the students that had qualified do the instructing. That way they could sit and do interviews with the new guys. Then we went to sub school, but with a shortened version of sub school. It was only like 6 weeks, I think it was. Yeah, 5-6 weeks. It was called, I think, Submarine Indoctrination course. Then you went to your first submarine, basically knowing very little about submarines other than nuclear engineering, and you really learned and got qualified on the first submarine. The skipjack, I heard somebody was on scamp. So the skipjack class was kind of unique. And the skipjack, I think, was unique among the skipjack class because it was more or less like a prototype. When they built the engine room, they put the Westinghouse parts on the starboard side and the General Electric parts on the port side. And so the supply officer had a real headache trying to keep track of how to keep all the right spares and everything. And the qualification was a little bit ragged in that respect too, because skipjack, when I got to it, had just completed an overhaul. It was actually scheduled for the Scorpion. One thing I didn't mention, 2 months before JJ and I graduated from the Naval Academy, the Scorpion went down. And that was a sobering experience. My new wife and family had some hesitation about it, but everything worked out pretty well after that. But the Scorpion was scheduled for an overhaul, and many of you that have been through overhaul know that it takes a long time to prepare for and be ready for an overhaul. And here they basically moved the skipjack into Scorpion's overhaul, and it was a mess. It was supposed to be 12 months, took 23 months to get out. And so I got to it about a month after it got out. So I got all the goodies. We got to go to Fort Lauderdale for our first port visit. The Navy League there treated us like royalty. We took them out on a Dependence kind of cruise, and they loved it. We went down to the Caribbean, did a bunch of sound trials and all that stuff, which was a lot of fun and was really good because we did a lot of port visits and surface transits, and gave me a chance to qualify in submarines a lot earlier than I would have normally, because we did a lot more landings and underways than we would have normally. So that worked out great. Skipjack, the term skipjack was fairly closely held, because on the ship they really called it the scrapjack, because we were broken all the time. We had a stuck control rod. We had sprayed oil into the commutator inverters in the engine room. We we almost lost the screw off of Bermuda. The nut that holds the screw on apparently the locking device came loose and the screw backed off. I was the MPA at the time, and I noticed that when we went at slow speeds, there was a thumping kind of noise at the stern of the submarine. And on that same trip, we lost our escape buoy, or our emergency submarine buoy. That flew off the submarine. So I don't know whether you're familiar with you may not be familiar, but the government would put out what he called the Nuclear Reactor Technical Bulletin, NRTB. The skipjack was the lead article in 2 of those NRTBs, which is usually bad things happening on nuclear submarines. And we had a contaminated steam generator because we got a leak in our condenser off of Scotland, which is not a good place to be on the surface. We had to go from Faslane on the East Coast around to Holy Lock on the West Coast on the surface through some pretty nasty weather. I was the only one in the wardroom that would go down for chow. Everybody else was horizontal. But my stomach is pretty strong. I could handle that. and I always got hungry. So, anyway, so skipjack was fun from the standpoint of a learning experience, how not to do stuff. So when I got, and my next assignment was to the Tecumseh after I passed the engineer's exam. Got to go to the Tecumseh, which was a really classic setup. The SSBNs obviously have two crews. I was in the blue crew. The submarine was in Holyloch, Scotland. The crew was in Charleston, South Carolina. So the 100-day cycle, 100 days off, 100 days on. And what I liked about it best is that, in my view, the toughest job in the submarine, in the nuclear submarine force, is engineer. Because basically anything that moves or has electrons going through it, it's his responsibility. But on the SSBN, you get full credit, but you're only there half time. So all the guys on the SSNs that I was on recommended them strongly to consider getting their engineering quals and go into an SSBN as engineer. Because that was the right route to take. Anyway, so on Tecumseh was just the opposite of skipjack with regard to repairs. I mean, it was well taken care of. Two crews keeping an eye on it all the time. The only thing that I hated about the job as engineer was the lithium bromide plant. Anybody that had lithium bromide, I mean, how do you put seawater, steam, and get cold water out of it? I mean, that just didn't make sense. Yeah. Anyway, so that Tecumseh was a good tour for me. I got to serve with the brother of one of my classmates, and so I had that going for me. The engineer, and one of the things that I started, my parentage is Welsh, so my grandmother and my great grandmother brought me up with tea, not coffee. In fact, my original formula, I think, was tea with evaporated milk. That was my formula. And so when I went to the submarine, I said, well, I'll just have tea. And so, but the XO, Tom Pastorius's brother, Mike, said, okay, as XO, I drink coffee all the time, and I need you every Saturday for evening meal. You have a cup of coffee and tell me whether it's getting better or worse. So that was my introduction to coffee, and a good thing that was the Saturday night was the night we would play poker. So having a cup of coffee was good. It allowed me to stay awake a little bit better. So Tecumseh, we didn't have any funny things going on. I mean, it was just we get in patrols, 5 patrols, and we were done. After that, I went to. It's really interesting. I went to Idaho. Uncle Rickover had started a course there for senior officers readiness training, and this was for conventionally powered 1,200-pound steam system ships that the Navy had recently bought and couldn't get underway. The reason was all the older 600-pound steam systems were all pretty much manually operated. The 1,200-pound steam system was so critical that they had to have all these automated controls for the feed system, for the boiler system, and they never worked. So the Navy, in its infinite wisdom, decided, well, we'll train the squadron commanders and the COs of the ships how the engine plant should work. They did that for about a year and a half, and the folks that went through the course said, we really ought to have this class for the engineers that are going to be on these ships, not commanding officers. And they said, okay, we'll do that. And so they went to the chief of naval operations and said, we want a class for our engineers on these new 1,200-pound steam systems. And the CNO said, well, go talk to Newport, Rhode Island. They're the ones that do all the training. And they went to Newport and they said, we can have that course ready in 2 years. That didn't seem fast enough. So they went down to Rickover, because Rickover had put together this class for the senior officers. And he said, I'll have that ready for you in 2 months. So I got selected at coming off my engineer tour to go to Idaho And as it turned out, with a classmate of mine who now lives in Highlands Ranch, and we get together with him, JJ and I get together with him on a periodic basis. And he and I went out to Idaho, along with 3 other surface nuclear trained people to train these guys how to be engineer. And the folks that came to the school were really challenging from the standpoint that many of them had no engineering experience, no engineering degree. We had ancient language majors, French majors. I mean, they were just a complete loss as to what was going on. So we had to go back to the real basics of how a boiler works and how the automatic systems fit together and help the ship get underway. And then after all that, then the surface Navy decided we're going gas turbines. We're not going to do this 1,200 pound steam system anymore. So worked out great. But the good thing was all of those guys that came through, they were contemporaries of mine. They were going through as chief engineer. I had just finished my chief engineer tour. So I got to meet about 150 guys that were going to be going into some pretty challenging spots. And following my XO tour, before I got to my command tour, we went to the Bureau of Naval Personnel, and we got together with about 40 of these guys were at the Pentagon or in the Navy annex with me. And we got together and sort of served as our own little wardroom group and socialized and got caught up on how all the things worked that they got finished up with. So that was a really great time for me. The XO tour was great. One of the things that I was most proud of as XO is that our submarine, the Flying Fish, won the Golden Anchor Award for the East Coast. That's the best recruiting ship, not just submarine, but best recruiting ship on the Atlantic coast. So we had the Lant come and actually presented us our Golden Anchor Award. So that was a real treat. I got credited as XO, but it was really a senior chief quartermaster. He knew all the detailers in DC, and he got everything. If somebody wanted something, he got it for them, and it was terrific. It was really a great experience on the Flying Fish. I took that experience, went to naval personnel. I was in charge of all the nuclear enlisted personnel, not just the submarine force, but the surface fleet as well. All nuclear enlisted were under this program. Of course, at that time, the nuclear surface ships were phasing out, but they still had a lot of aircraft carriers, and they were building more aircraft carriers. So there were about 30,000 in this population. One of the most interesting things that I noticed in there, that every chief of the boat, they targeted as a torpedoman chief, master chief. So how do you think the torpedoman ranking went? It went, you had this many E9s and you had this many E8s, because all of the submarines were being billeted for a torpedoman master chief. I had to go in and change that round. And of course, there weren't very many E8s left anyway to be promoted, but that kind of hurt their upward mobility after that. So we spread it around, and he actually included nukes in the candidacy for the chief of the boat. So that was kind of interesting. And of course, at that time, when JJ and I first got in, they had bonuses for staying in the Navy. I think they were $1,500 at the start. When I got out, they were $10,000 to stay in. So it was a big deal. Then I went to CO. My CO tour was good, except I had a year of overhaul, and that was not my happiest time. But the one good thing that came out of it, I was on the Baton Rouge, by the way. The Baton Rouge, the Navy League in Baton Rouge invited me to send my cooks to Baton Rouge, and they would train them on how to prepare the Cajun specialties. And so I had 8 cooks. So I sent them down 2 at a time for about a month and a half to 2 months each. The Navy League took care of putting them up. They put them up in one of the hotels, and then they had the hotel cooking staff train them. And then they would come back to the submarine, and then we would send 2 more down. And since we were there for a year, we had a chance to get all of them through. One of the challenges, as you all know, though, is that 1/3 of the crew turns over every year. So we lost several of the earlier trained people, but we got them back. We got the new people that came in on Baton Rouge trained up by the folks that had already been down in Baton Rouge and got a chance to learn those skills. So I think my most harrowing time as CO was backing out of a dry dock. Have you ever done that? It's not a happy time. I'm at the destroyer submarine piers in Norfolk. It's about 10 feet wider than my submarine is long, and we're coming out at ebb tide. So the big old flat rudder is sticking out there. But I knew. I said, hey, I've been warned about this. I got 2 tugboats, one on the bow and one on the stern. And Murphy was in charge of the guy on the stern. Because as soon as we backed out into the stream, the stern tug died. It was like an anchor. Well, it wasn't even as good as an anchor. It was a floating beach ball. So here I am, not kind of beyond the point of no return. You have to go out because once you're off the blocks, they don't want you back. You're out. So I'm off the blocks. I'm going out, and on the north side is a cruiser. On the south side is an USSVI. And I'm thinking they're a little wider than normal folks that are there, but I can do it. I can get around. So I lowered my outboard motor and got it working to help a little bit. But then I realized, hey, we're turning. We're gonna do a 180 here. We're not gonna be able to back out. So we did a 180, and I swear it was touch and go between me getting the peacetime tonnage award or getting out of the dry dock. So, well, we made it, and nobody from the tender noticed. So we got out. The one tug put us where we belonged, and everybody got off with. I had to change my underwear though, but it was ugly. It was pretty kind of fun. We did a med deployment. The med is fun, especially if you can go into port sometimes, and we did get to go into port. So, and then after my submarine time, I figured, well, I'm going to retire. I only had 19 years in, and they don't give you any retirement if you retire at 19. So I did one more tour. And my first job in submarines on the skipjack was communications officer. My last job in submarines was communication. I was in charge of all communications for the Atlantic submarines, including NATO. So I got to go to NATO meetings. And if you've never been to a NATO meeting, it is a if you're going to do anything, you have to do it in the morning because lunch is 3 hours and it includes alcohol. So after lunch, it's a waste of time. But my first tour, or my first assignment within NATO was to go to Istanbul. And this was the Turks had just recently joined NATO, and this was the first meeting that they hosted. And so they went completely overboard. We had accommodations on the European side of the Bosphorus. We had meetings on the Asian side of the Bosphorus with a boat tour between the two. And at lunchtime, they took us to the local palaces for lunch, and they charged us $15, so they had to charge us. But I mean, these lunches were spectacular. And it included, as I said before, alcohol of all sorts and much of it. So by the time we got back in the afternoon, I pretty much figured it was siesta time. And so we kept the agenda was kept very low key for the afternoons. Now, contrary to what the Europeans did for their NATO hosting, where they went completely overboard, I had to host one meeting of NATO in Norfolk, Virginia. And Commsublant gave me $200 to spend on the entertainment or whatever I was going to do. So what I did, I rented 2 big buses and took them all to Williamsburg and turned them loose there. That's all I could afford. But and then right before I retired, I got the chance to take my wife to a meeting in Madrid with the NATO meeting, a meeting in London with the British submarine force as part of the communications group. In Madrid, my wife got lost in Segovia, but she got found again. And then in London, we got to have dinner at the House of Commons dining room, which was really cool. And then we came home, and then I retired. And I came to Rocky Flats to help them out. So that's my story there. But how did I get involved in the Veterans Museum? Well, in 1998, the father-son combination came to us. They were the videographers, and they wanted to videotape World War II veterans before they passed on. They were getting older by then, in '98, obviously. So I was a member of the Rotary Club. Actually, I was president of the Rotary Club at that time. And they asked for money. We gave them $5,000, and we got them set up. And we had about 20 members of the Rotary Club that were all World War II vets. So they started the thing. And then what happened after about 200 or 100 or so interviews, people wanted to donate stuff because they didn't want it anymore. They wanted to have some place to put it. And so 5 of our members of the Rotary Club worked with the city and got a dedicated space in what was originally the Mamie Eisenhower Library, dedicated by Mamie, and Ike was there in 1962. But this was in 2002. The library had relocated to a new building, and they had this building available. The city had this building available, and so they basically loaned out space to nonprofits. And so 5 of our Rotary members were able to get a space in that building for the museum. And over the last 20 years, the other nonprofits have moved out, and we've taken over the whole building now. So we have a really nice set of about 6 rooms of displays. We have an honor wall that we're trying to convert to digital here in the next 2 years, where you can go in and punch in a name, and the honoree biography will come up, and a picture and so forth. We also have over 2,000 element library in the basement, and we have a conference room on Saturdays. It's usually on the second and fourth Saturdays. We have people come in and give a presentation for about an hour. JJ's been there. I've been there. Other members have been there. And it's a really nice way to get some of the veterans to share their stories. And so like I said, if you get a chance, and it's a Saturday, if it's second or fourth Saturday, we pretty much always have a speaker. It runs from about 10 till 11 or 11:30. And we have free donuts and coffee and we're open Tuesdays and Thursdays. If you don't want to come Saturday, so it's a lot less crowded on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We're open from 10 till 2 Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we're open from 9 till 3 on Saturdays. But like I said, the second and fourth Saturdays, we always have a speaker, and they're there. This last week, we had a talk by History Colorado, on the Hessians. The Hessians. I grew up in New Jersey, so I'm big on Hessians because they got their butts kicked in Trenton, New Jersey. So the Hessians were known to me. And this guy had done his doctoral thesis, I guess, on the Hessians, and wanted to share the research that he had done on them. But I mean, we've had people come in and talk about flying the hump from India into China and Burma for providing the Chinese with the resources to fight off the Japanese that were there. We've had Flint Whitlock, one of our directors, is an avid history and author, and he talked about the Sand Creek Massacre, about his research into the Sand Creek Massacre, and that was done about a month ago. And like I said, we have a lot of good speakers. JJ?
I point out that the schedule of speakers is on your website.
Yeah.
And also they record all of the lectures.
Yeah, so you can go back and look at the one on the Sand Creek Massacre, or the one that JJ gave, or the one that I gave. But you pretty much heard what I gave. But so, any questions on Veterans Museum or any of the other BS I talked about?
Yeah, I got one.
Most of it was true.
So this is the Broomfield Museum, which is right there off of
Midway.
Midway.
Yeah.
Clay Decker.
Yeah, we got a Clay Decker display, and we have a Momsen Long, and we have a picture.
Yeah,
that was.
he's a member of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And Clay came and talked to our Rotary Club too.
also, I do remember, because I've looked at the article or your website quite a bit. You had one in there for one of the original founders was on the USS Indianapolis.
Yes, Paul Murphy. Yeah, he was
all that time in the water.
Yeah.
And then finally, when are you going to join our base?
I can do it today.
That's good. And anybody else you know?
Well,
Said Aaron and Buddy.
well, there's a few submariners here because of Rocky Flats, I think. Remember, look, you know the story about Rocky Flats and why so many submariners showed up? Well, in 1989, Rocky Flats was shut down by the FBI. Who was the Secretary of Energy? James B. Watkins, who was a retired admiral submariner. So Admiral Watkins hired a bunch of submarine guys, nukes, to come onto the Department of Energy. And the Department of Energy oversees all of there were like 17 different DOE sites at the time. And all of those sites are run by a contractor. And so the contractors figured out, hey, if he's hiring submariners, we ought to be hiring submariners. And so I got out of the Navy at the perfect time to come to Colorado. And then actually, when I came to Colorado, it was on December 1st of 1989. I retired on, December 2nd. I'm sorry, December 2nd of 19. I retired on November 30th of 1989. Came out here for an interview. They offered me a job, and I didn't know it at the time, but two of the people I worked with in Idaho were on the screening board for hiring people at Rocky Flats. Anyway, so I got hired, and so I started work on December 7th, 1989. Not a day of infamy, but a good day for me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The day after they messed it up.
Well, actually, the reason they were shut down was because some satellite or airplane or something that had detected that what looked like an incinerator that had not been permitted was being operated. But it turned out that no, it was a boiler system for the building that the incinerator was not licensed. So it was shut down for the wrong reason, and it was shut down by lawyers instead of engineers. And so they screwed it up completely. They shut it down with all of the plutonium liquid in the lines rather than draining it all out. And so it took us 4 years to basically restore the system to what it should have been when they shut it down.
Yep. So I got hired in '93.
Okay.
Stayed in 2005.
Yeah.
But I was a planner.
Yeah.
And so all those systems that had all that uranium in there.
Oh, yes, you got right in the middle of it.
Right in the middle.
Well, my first job was as training director. And I don't know whether you all did this or not, but one of the things that was recommended when I got out of the Navy is, Color is Your Parachute exercises, a book on how, when you're doing a major change in your job, is to do this exercise. It's basically 6 scenarios that you put yourself in, and you describe, what was successful, what wasn't successful. And at the end, it basically comes out and tells you what to do and where you should do it. And it told me I should be a training manager or coach in the Rockies. So it worked out pretty dang good.
You got a couple questions.
When you were at the Flats, did you know a man named Arlen Kester?
And then Arlen was another submarine, another bubblehead.
Mr. Kester was our engineering officer at Fort Calhoun.
Oh, that's great. So Arlen and I came up with a Friday song, and Arlen and I would go and sing it with a couple other guys, and we'd sing a Friday song every Friday. Huh? Oh yeah, it's a great song. I mean, it's really simple. It goes like this. Friday, Friday, Friday is my favorite day. Friday, Friday, Friday is my favorite day. Monday is a bummer. Tuesday's just the same. Wednesday's getting better. Tuesday's pretty lame, but Friday, Friday, Friday is my favorite. Friday is my favorite. Friday is my favorite day. It started out. You might not have noticed it, but I'm somewhat of an extrovert. Just a little.
So I've heard a lot of interesting stories about Rickover from both officers and enlisted. Can you tell us how your interview with Rickover went?
Well, I had three encounters. Let's call them that with Rickover. One was when after I finished my work at the nuclear at the nuclear engineering master's degree, I had to go down and get an interview to get into his program. I went down there. I think it was a Tuesday. I went down there at 8:00. Rickover was at the Senate Armed Services Committee doing some testimony. So he didn't get back until about 7:00 that night. So I had three other interviews. And they asked me questions about, like the summer. I was on the USS Mackerel during my summer cruise my senior year, before my senior year. And they asked me all questions about the Mackerel. I don't think I knew a lot of the answers, but I made stuff up. And then we had another one that talked about, the first law of thermodynamics and, the other heavy stuff. But my interview was probably the easiest interview you ever heard of. The captain, there was a prospective commanding officer captain that sort of shepherds all the candidates in. He was more nervous than I was, I swear. Because I go in and he said, okay, when you go in, sit down at the chair, look at the admiral. Admiral, the desk the admiral was sitting at, his head's only about this high above the desk. And so it's a little off-putting. So anyway, I sit down. He says, are you married? No, sir. All right. I said, yeah, are you married? I said, yes, sir. Do you have any kids? No, sir. Get out. That was my interview. JJ has a lot different story to tell. But I've heard a lot of the stories too. Which ones are true or which ones are made up, but there's some pretty interesting ones. I know one of my classmates was in the Glee Club. So the admiral made him stand on the chair and sing his favorite song. That was one of the more mild things he had to do.
I know my engineer on the Marshall had a good story about his interview.
Yeah.
I'll tell you afterwards.
Yeah. Well, one of the things, when I was at the job at the Navy Annex, there was another guy and I were both in the PCO hotline, and he was in charge of all the officer stuff. I had all the enlisted program, and he said he had two requirements when he had command: not have Admiral Rickover show up on a submarine, and not have the 60-minute camera crew. My experience, 1 week after I took command, 60 Minutes camera crew and Admiral Rickover showed up on my submarine because he was touring a group. He was retired at the time. He retired from the Navy, but he was running a sort of a summer program for geeks to take them around and show them the different things in the nuclear arena. So I had to write that guy and said, hey, your worst fears have occurred on my submarine.
Okay, any final questions? Need to move it on a little bit.
One curiosity. How do they know that you ended up in Fort Deposit?
That's where they had the submarine basic training.
They had the submarine training was in Bainbridge, Maryland.
Right.
Fort Deposit is just a.
Well, that was the nuclear, not the submarine. It was the nuclear and the nuclear program book school, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Nuclear.
Yeah, Bainbridge was right across the way from Port Deposit. Yeah, it was.
The nuclear power school was on Bainbridge.
Yeah, it was on the same site. But we call it Port Deposit, they call it Bainbridge.
One final question.
One question?
I'm limited to one question.
Yes.
Okay, I think about this question. The veterans interviews, how many were you actually able to get done?
I'm sorry, the what now?
The World War II veterans, the interviews.
Oh, I think we got over 260. And I think they're available either online or through a web connection.
You're right. How many Navy vets or sub vets?
Oh, so that's not that many, not as many as you'd think. But I mean, Colorado didn't have a lot of submarine connection. I think people that have come here afterwards. I think. I mean, how many here are natives? 2. Okay, that's about 3. Yeah. I mean, when I first came here for my job in at Rocky Flats, it was the first time I was in the state. I'd been to all the other states except Alaska, but I had not been to Colorado until I came for an interview.
So those vets, were they pretty forthcoming about their experience during the war?
They were, and in fact, we still have families that send us donations every year because of what we did to get their World War II vet on tape and to tell his story. And most things said they never told their story to the family.
I grew up going to reunions. My dad was in the army. He was a campaign. He never talked about it.
Yeah.
I overheard a lot of stuff at the reunions, but most of that was about wrecking jeeps, going AWOL. A lot of the fun stuff that
Yeah.
he did. Well, Fairhound experience.
See, we had a lot of Army Air Corps people in Colorado interviewed. Not many submariners. Thank you much. Okay. Right. Right.
We appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, well, good. Got me an application.
Okay, let's go ahead and take a break for coffee and cake. We have to speed it up a little bit. It's already after 8. No, it's not. It's 8.
Okay, so let's go ahead and continue with the meeting.
Just a reminder again about recruitment. Recruitment is what we really need. We need to get as many people as possible. Make sure you wear your hats, carry cards, or email address, send out. I have some more cards if you've run out of cards. And I got a little bit of a story where I bumped into a subsailor in Costco last week. The guy wasn't terribly interested, but he said he was a student at the Colorado School of Mines, and that he would post our card at the vet center. So then I got to thinking, well, if the Mines has a vet center, then Metro must, DU, CSU, CU. So I contacted all of them, and I made up a flyer, asked them to put that out to their veterans to see if we could find anybody. So what I did was I made up a flyer, basically just tells us what we do and how to contact us. It gives them the website and the YouTube channel. And so I've got about 10 copies up here. If you guys would pick one up and take it home, you could copy it as many times as you like. Put it in like a hospital bulletin board or a doctor's office or any place you know of that has a public bulletin board. That way we can get the information out as much as we can. So they're here. Pick them up before you leave. Minutes. If there's no corrections to the minutes from our last meeting, we will accept them as published. Remember now, we do have a YouTube channel where our meetings are recorded. We also have the recording of the memorial service, right? Okay, so we'll have different meeting events. Any corrections to the minutes? Okay, they'll be accepted as published. If you have any inputs to Dan, make sure you send those to him. Okay. Treasurer. You have some highlights of
Who's he? Well, we'll start with good news, and that is that the last weekend, after our executive board meeting, we came back over here and they performed an audit of the books, and they liked what they saw. So, 1 point in my favor. So we'll continue doing what we were doing. Last month was a pretty slow month. We had a total income of $40. However, we had $62 worth of expenses. That's not the whole treasurer's report. If you'd like to see that, it's readily available right up here. You can come see me after the meeting, and you can look through all of the numbers. But we did receive $1,000 donation to the National USSV Charitable Foundation from Cindy Pollock for the Caps for Kids program. So we now have over $5,000 at national in our Caps for Kids program. And we've also, it looks like everybody who's made donations to the Rocky Mountain Base Memorial Foundation fund has been updated. So we're close to $5,000 in the base memorial fund. We are looking at that because we're in the process of getting bids to replace the flag halyards and the cleats locations on the flagpole at the Grayling Memorial, so that that will. And we're also looking at replacing the whole flag mast because it was bent when they put up a larger flag, and the wind came up and it decided that we had cheap steel in the mast, so it got bent and it's been straightened, but it still needs a little extra support. So we're looking to get a hardened alloy so that it'll stand upright without any extra support from the lamp post that's next door to the flagpole. So we're getting quotes on that, and we'll be able to use the funds that we have at National for that. Any questions? When we start talking about dues, we can take and pay our dues through Zelle is one of the options. If your bank account has Zelle access, then you can send that to us using the Zelle. Except that we have a new email address for our Zelle account. And that is ops.treas@RockyMountainSubvets.com. Previously, it was my personal email. So that has been changed now to the business email. So again, it's OPS, all small letters, .TREAS at RockyMountainSubvet.com.
That's on the website.
That's on the website too. So you can check out the new mailing address at RockyMountainSubvets.com. Okay. Yeah. Anyhow, thank you to all the new members who've joined us here, and let's keep it going. Keep growing. I did want to let them know, I forgot to tell them this, but
The guy's already inspected it, and the base on that flagpole had to be replaced. It's not strong enough to support what's there. The guide wire is the only thing holding the whole chute back up right now. And what Grant had said was that the pole itself was welded piping that a construction company had back in the 70s, where somebody just welded it all together and they just kind of threw it up there. So
mild steel.
yeah, and so it's not holding up very well. It's been there for, was it 74, 75, 76? So we're looking at 45 years for almost 50 years that it's held up. But it's about time it needs to be replaced. I don't expect it to be cheap.
Yeah.
We're talking several $1,000s. But I think it's something we need to do to make sure that that it stays another 50 years.
Really talking about them removing this memorial?
No.
Bruce, nothing about Denver wanting to move it again? The memorial? Nope, haven't heard anything. Okay, so I'll run through the birthdays for March. Larry Goddard was the 1st. Dick Life was the 10th. Andy, yours is the 10th. Dennis, who's not here, the 14th. Don Price, 23. Trey Moody, the 26th. And Barbara Robinson was the 26th. So Dennis and Barbara are having the same month. How about that? Okay, birthdays coming up in March. Lawrence Monger. Okay. April. Lawrence Monger is the 4th. Patrick Krause is the 4th. James Brunemeyer. Has anybody got an update on Brunemeyer?
I keep trying to get a hold of him. I have not been able to go by his house.
So,
I'm gonna go over there and park at his gate and see if somebody will come out.
okay. Yeah, don't have a way of getting a hold of the wife.
Try to call them, all their telephone numbers, they don't answer the telephone. I left him a message today.
Okay. Larry Ness, the 7th of April. Daniel Chuck is the 9th. Craig, you're the 14th. Bob Gurley, the 17th. Dan Monroe, the 17th. And Jeff, the 28th. Did I forget anybody? Now, for the big question, who would like to bring cake for next month, next meeting? Don't everybody raise it. Oh, Larry? All right. You're celebrating what? What's that? Oh.
Commander, Marie's birthday is the 11th. And go to study in Indiana Central University, the chief petty officer for April 1st.
April 1st. I know that. When I retired, my flag was flown above the USS Nautilus on April in 1993. Okay. Committee reports. Tammy, you got anything to throw at us?
I have, well, I keep waiting for that, the 60th anniversary patch and pin sets, and they went like wildfire. So if anybody wants a patch and pin set, they're $18 for 60th anniversary. Just let me know, and I'm going to order some more.
Patch and coin set.
What'd I say? Coin, patch and coin.
Grant, you have anything about web master? We already talked about it.
Pretty much talked about.
Okay. Okay, Capture Kids.
That's what I need to.
Kathy didn't show up. Inoni and her husband John, they're both are taking on the Capture Kids program. Last time I talked to them, they're really excited about it. It'll be April 4th at 1800 to 1930, and it's going to be at the Ronald McDonald House. And that's the one that's right off I-225 in about what, 6th Avenue or something like that?
Oh, 9th.
9th. It's a little bit south of.
955.
Okay. I'm going to send out a big email about all of that. So who might be attending that? I'm going to be attending it. Bruce? Oh, all right. We got 4 plus them. So we'll have about 6 or 7. That's a pretty good showing. So remember, that's 6 o'clock is maybe a little bit after the rush hour, so it may take you a little while to get there. I know it'll take me a while to get there. Okay, bingo, Colorado State Veterans Home. We are going to do March. Here I did it again. This is April 20th. At 10:00. Andy, I know you just got into town. Oh, excuse me, all the heck is back.
We'll do March.
We'll do March.
Wednesday, and I have a fresh batch of $2 bills. Well,
Okay. Did they get that through you as far as we get that all accounted for? Okay, good deal. Okay, so I was there last time. It was pretty good. We had a really good turnout last time. We haven't even had one where two people got bingo at the same time, which was kind of unique. Okay, so we got about who's going to be attending that one? I'm going to be there. Bruce. Okay, good deal. And I know Gene will be showing up. Okay, parades. Jeff made up a good list here of all the different parades that we can go to. We did notice that there's a couple conflicts as far as dates are concerned. Like the one in Frederick is just 2 days after the one in Broomfield, which is the one I wanted to go to. But I think that's a pretty steep turnaround, just 2 days. We are already signed up for the Estes Park. That's July 8th. We're signed up for the Frederick, which is the Miners Day. Miners Day, and what day is that?
21st.
Oh, September.
21st. I
Okay.
got it on my calendar in the phone.
Okay. Anything else, Jeff? You want to add? He went through and listed about 20 different ones.
I know some of you have made a long list. We'll just enter the list real quick for this one. These two might let me know.
Here.
And the reason we're doing the mic is because then it's picked up on our recording. Otherwise, you don't hear people talking in the audience.
Okay, we've got the Denver Cinco de Mayo parade we've never done on Saturday, May 11th. The Commerce City Memorial Day Parade is Monday, May 27th, and we have done that one before. They required insurance, which Grant gave me policy. We have that, so we could do that one. That was a good one. We have Firestone on the 4th of July, and the Greeley Stampede is on the 4th of July, and we're doing Estes Park on the 8th. So they're pretty close together.
It might be a tough one to do also.
We've got Buffalo Bill Days in Golden. That's Saturday, July 27th. I don't think we've ever done that. The Douglas County Fair in Castle Rock is Saturday, July 17th. And I live in Castle Rock. That's a good parade. They got a good turnout there. The Boulder County Fair Parade is Saturday, August 3rd in Longmont. The Wheat Ridge Carnation Festival, Saturday, August 10th. Littleton Western Welcome Week is Saturday, August 17th, and we've done that one. That's a good one. Monday, August 2nd, Windsor Harvest Days and the Louisville Labor Day Parade. I think somebody said we should do Louisville. Somebody did. Frederick Miners Days we're signed up for on Saturday, September 21st. We've got Broomfield Days, Monday, September 23rd, 2 days later. Sheridan celebrates Saturday, September 28th. We've done that one, but found a real good turnout there. The Denver Veterans Day Parade is Saturday, November 9th, but they charge $350 to get in that. So I'm not sure if we want to do that. And then,
Tell them to take a hike.
yeah, and then the Denver Parade of Lights is Saturday, December 7th. Wear your long johns.
Can you check on Broomfield days? Because normally their parade is on a Saturday, not on a Monday.
So that's right. Yeah, I'm from Broomfield. We've never had Broomfield Day.
That might have been last Thursday.
So if there's a week difference, we might be able to make it.
Yeah, I'll check on that one.
Because I really like to stop in and see that museum.
And we leave them in those that Saturday. And we usually have a fun parade as well.
And I read somewhere you have a lot of booths in that big parking lot and everything all set up too.
We did the Boulder County Fair parade one year also.
What?
Boulder County Fair,
Yeah, I've got
livestock rodeo.
Yeah, that's August 3rd. That's on the list.
Yeah, it's on the list here. We did that one year. It was very good.
Was it?
Yeah, okay. Didn't have too many people on the boat, but maybe we can do better.
Jeff, do you know if that 350 is like supporting veterans? And what's the fee? Or
I don't know, just said, they had different fee structure for everything. I'm not sure if I.
It's probably to pay the police and barriers and all that kind of stuff.
Not gonna do it anyway.
Yeah, we're not gonna worry about that. Okay, United Veterans Coalition, I do have a list here of all the, state bills, that they're following and supporting, and then they run down exactly where it's at in the chain of, approval and stuff, and, so I got about 12 pages here of different, bills that affect veterans. So if you're interested, I have it up here. Also, they just got back from Washington DC talking to congressman, and the biggest push they're doing, this is both the UBC, the state representative for American Legion and VFW, and they're all really pushing against these lawyers that try to scam companies, where they'll charge them money for filing for their claim under the PACT Act and stuff like that. Aggressive lawyer type thing. So they're pushing that bill quite hard. Hopefully we could get some kind of resolution on that, because they can charge as much as 40%. One individual, they charged them $1,200 a month for life. A month for life. Luckily, when the American Legion found out about it, they got their lawyers involved, national, and they got that thrown out. So they were able to support that. So again, if you have any questions, we have probably a half a dozen of bills that directly affect veterans that they're working on.
Especially if anybody's still in Guam with this. Make sure that you apply for the PACT Act, because the Polaris Point was cleared with Agent Orange.
Okay, the memorial, we talked a little bit about the flagpole. So what we did was I went out and got several estimates from different companies. We ended up going with a company called AC Flag and Banner, and they're out of Littleton, Colorado. The owner and his wife, or it's the wife's the owner and he's the worker. Actually, when he showed up to do his estimate, he says he was just amazed. He lived his whole life in this area and never knew that this memorial was here. He spent about half an hour just reading all the plaques, walking around, looking at it, and all that kind of stuff. And so our original estimate was to lower the 3 cleats down to a 10-foot level, put them in locked boxes, replace, what are they called? Halyards, replace the halyards, all of the other hard miscellaneous hardware. And that was going to come up to a little over $1,200. But when he knew it was a military, he did a military discount where he took away all his labor. So we decided to go with him, since the other couple of companies didn't do that. And then while we were approving the estimate on last Saturday, that's when Grant brought up the issue about the pole itself. The pole is going to need to be repaired. And so I went back to them to ask them to do that. So in all sense and purposes, we're holding off on this work to be done until he gives us the quote for the replacement of the pole. And the base is going to have to be replaced also. So once I get all the information on that, I will send that information out, or I'll put it out at a meeting.
Once we have that, then we can submit that to our National Charitable Foundation to get refunded for that cost.
So hopefully, all in all, we won't be that much in a hole. Do you think they'll be paying all of it, or that 50-50 again?
If it's less than the $5,000, it's our money. So it's, if it's more than $5,000, we'll take our money and then whatever else they'll give us.
Okay.
And that's the approval process that we have to go through.
Okay. Okay, the float. Robert, you got anything to add to it, or?
talked to Mike about it, Bruce,
And then John, I know, he said he would help too.
yeah, what my intent is Andy, Bruce, and I, we're gonna.
Hold on.
You're gonna have to beat it into us. It's got a little on-off. Red light is on.
Says it's on.
Well, the mute, the bottom button needs to be pushed up,
It is.
and the red light is on.
No, not on mine.
Well, that means you have to turn the power on.
It is on.
Well, there's no red light, the power's not on.
Oh, there it is.
Okay? Yeah.
Okay, now that my leg is healed and I'm getting around a lot better, the intent is Andy, we're gonna work on it this week. Bruce, are you able to? My intent is to get the hull finished in the next couple of weeks. Get it all put together, tear down, and get the mounting bolts, fasteners in so that the sail and all that can be mounted on it. The stern planes, the rudder, and the ventral fins on the side of it and the stern. All that's going to be, I'm going to have John do all that work because I can't do it. And then we'll make those attachments. My intent is to get it to Linex and get the hull completely covered in Linex and paint it properly. I hope to have it done no later than the middle of April. That's kind of where I'm at, and I've got to talk to John. I've not heard from him, so.
Do you have his contact number?
No, I do not.
Okay, I'll send you that stuff.
Send me that, and then I can contact him and make arrangements to get the measurements done for the sail and the stern planes and rudder and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And a bearing for the prop.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, so now I have another little story. Got a contact about 2 weeks ago from a guy who served on the La Jolla. He saw my name on the USSVI website, and he just shot me an email. And we got to emailing back and forth. Come find out that he is the base commander to the Cowboy base out of Fort Worth, Texas. And so we started back and forth and figuring out how each one of the different bases operate. And he had a really good idea that I want to implement. And what it is every quarter, we're going to have a social get-together, like we're going to have a lunch, or the picnic is considered a social get-together. It's going to be held on a Saturday. It's going to be around noon, 1 o'clock, or whatever we decide on. Bruce has already been working on getting some places lined up. I know the Golden Corral actually has room set aside for military people. And there's like 3 of them in the area here, and they're more than happy to set a room off for us. And the whole reason I wanted to do this was because we have people that can't come to the meetings because they can't drive at night anymore. I know Gene and Sandy Keller, they come to all of the times that it's during the day, like they show up. They used to come all the time. You're leaving? Okay. And Gene Nagel also can't drive anymore at night. I'm sure we have probably 3 or 4 others. And so if we set something up like this on a Saturday, get together, strictly social, have fun, eat a lunch, how many people are interested in doing something like that? Oh, that's a really good turnout. It's a lot more than I thought it was going to be. Okay, good. So I thought that was one of the best ideas he had to share with me. And so we're going to start doing that. This is the end of the first quarter. And so sometime in the next 3 months, we'll set something up. I was figuring somewhere around the middle May, something like that. Bruce, does that sound reasonable? And have you actually called one of the Golden Corrals and see what we have to do? We have to inform them or anything? Okay, I think you just have to reserve the room. And the one I've been at, so I was the president of the E-Niners Association here in Colorado for 5 years before we had to disband. And we did a couple of them at different Golden Corrals. And the one that is right at Hampton and Santa Fe has a whole room set up, plaques on the walls and all sorts of stuff. And yeah, for military people, they're just thrilled to have military people show up. So I just thought that would be a good thing to get the people that can't come in the evenings involved.
Have one in July also, sir.
We have one in July. What is it?
Mrs. Bowman spoke about it.
That's right.
Today,
July sixth,
6th of July,
Saturday.
Saturday.
We're going to do a barbecue at Tammy and Dale's house. It'll be like a potluck similar to our picnic. And it'll be fun. And then we have the parade, what, 2 days later? Yeah, 2 days later, starting at their house.
Guys were really nice to me. I'll cook breakfast on break.
Oh,
Parade's not until September.
so you remember how many people we had? We had 15 people show up.
We had more than that.
Well, we did. We had 14 on the float.
Well, yeah.
They're both confused.
September 21st.
September 21st is a Miners' Day parade, and she's talking about making breakfast September 21st for the parade,
Yeah. And the picnic.
which starts at 10 o'clock. So if you get to the house at 8 o'clock, you might get breakfast.
You want to have the barbecue on July 6th.
Okay, and the barbecue on July 6th.
July 6th, I burn burgers and brats, and you got to bring your own beer.
And side dishes and desserts.
Yeah, so it'll be just like our picnic that we normally have in August, right,
Well,
Bruce? So we'll do two then, two picnics. Okay, JJ, do you have anything to add for the Colorado?
You guys just talk about getting ready any day, or maybe you already has left for their permanent change home port to Pearl
Can I get?
Oh.
Mike, turn it on. Red button at the top.
Yeah, so USS Colorado is getting ready any moment, or maybe already has left Groton for their permanent change of home port to Pearl Harbor. Will be where they will be in the shipyard for 18 months to 2 years timeframe. And we had a call with the commanding officer here recently where he talked about this. They're hoping to have a dependence cruise shortly after they get to Pearl Harbor, which they might have room for some association members. We have some of the Colorado Submarine Association members may be going out to greet them in Pearl and or take this ride. We're not sure when it is or how far separated it'll be from when they arrive. And then the commanding officer will have a change of command this summer. And there'll be another opportunity for folks to go out and visit them. Also, since they'll be in the shipyard for that period of time, there should be an opportunity during the period to have hopefully several visits out here to Colorado, but we don't have anything firm on that yet. One of the other things that the commanding officer said he was having been invited by the NROTC unit here at CU to speak to his unit prior to the end of the semester, which of course is coming up pretty quickly. So I don't know if they get out in Pearl about the middle of April, which is the current projection. I'm not sure they could get back here to do a visit before school gets out. I think exams are the 8th of May, I heard. So anyway, those are some of the things that are happening with the vote.
Okay, thank you. Reach Across America, we're kind of limbo right now.
Cruise control.
Yep. We are going to do a lunch before Reach Across, assuming that it's still at 1 o'clock, right?
I assume so, but I won't know until I get.
Yeah, closer to it. But we'll try to do a lunch this time beforehand.
Well, we still have $270 allocated.
Okay, well, 270, still allocated for weeds,
17,
270.
She's not here.
and then $17.
Okay, so we have enough money to
Well, we
cover.
need 21 now. 21 is
Yeah.
$17.
Okay, go to the order. The national convention this year is August 19th to the 24th at Independence, Ohio. That is just south of Cleveland, Ohio. It's kind of a suburb of Cleveland. Right in the middle of August, right on the Lake Erie, I believe it is. Hot and humid. Does everybody have an interest in going? Is everybody planning on going? I know Julie would love to go. She hates the humidity. Okay, one final thing before we do the 50-50. Mr. Dan Ballard has been appointed as our ambassador for the USSVI Charitable Foundation. And so he's going to speak a couple minutes on some of the funds that they have, some of the foundations or, funds that they have, right?
So a couple months ago, I did a donation through my employer, and I was talking to Ken at UCF, and they had lost my money. And I was like, well, where did it go? So they had to trace it down. So he and I exchanged a whole lot of emails a few months ago. And out of that, he says, your base is pretty active. I think you'd be a good ambassador. And so I said, well, what's an ambassador? And so next thing I know, I'm the ambassador. So so the full name is USSVCF, otherwise known as just Charitable Foundation. And the Charitable Foundation, what they're trying to do is have ambassadors at all the bases, so that instead of having all of you reach out directly to national, is to reach out to me, and then I will reach out to them. And I've been putting stuff in the newsletter to indicate about, donating and what the BCF is, but basically, it represents all the sub vets from all the time, all the way back to World War II. And it was designed or set up in 2000, created to further the support of veterans and their legacy with creation of a 501(c)(3) standalone, fully certified charitable organization. And I'm not going to spend time up here, but I have a whole packet here. So what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to put some stuff in the newsletter about each of the funds. But there are couple of the funds I wanted to mention. Some of them you're very familiar with. Caps for Kids, you're very familiar with. The scholarship fund that we try to get kids to volunteer for or ask for money for. But one I wanted to mention that I've heard a lot about that people don't know about is the Brotherhood Fund. The Brotherhood Fund is a fund that anyone can ask for funds to help pay for a lot of different things that you may not even think about being paid for. So just assist mates who themselves or immediate family are experiencing any serious illness. We can't help with the illness, but we can help with financial stresses associated with the illness. Also, we can assist when other major events occur, like fires, floods, earthquakes, hurricanes, if you have COVID enforced actions, a lot of different things. But right now, up to this point, in the last 3 years, they've given away $33,000. And so
if you have, and the fund manager, Don Young, can actually, up to $3,000, he's the yes or no on that. Anything more than 3,000 has to go to the full foundation for approval. But if you have needs that you're unable to pay for sure, reach out and use the fund because that's what it's there for. The last one, I know we're going to flip on time, but the last one I want to talk about is the legacy fund. It's an opportunity for you to include in your estate, the USSVI, ECF, to support sailors, sub vets from those that are that are going to be coming up that need your help. So if you can get with your attorneys and put that on your estate. If you need any help with that, I can tell you, talk to you about how to do that. My wife and I did that for the USSVCF to give some of our estate once we pass away. But that's a good way to support your teammates. And so I will put the rest of this in the newsletter. I'll put something about each fund over the next several months so you can have some information about that.
Thank you, Dan. Okay, let's do the 50-50.
Nine five 1528 right here.
Nah,
No, that's cheap.
you're sitting right next to it.
No,
It's gotta be a. Okay, good, Craig. So does anybody else have anything for good of the order? Anything you want to talk about, discuss? Andy?
Went to Florida for vacation, got a chance to see, Burley's, Bob and Carla, had lunch with them.
Oh.
Spent some time. And they said their best, they miss y'all, they're doing well, especially Bob, at sea level with lung issues and things like that. They send their best way.
So do they come back to Colorado at all anymore? I knew they were going back and forth.
They are coming back at least once. Spring.
Okay, so he'll try to make a meeting, you think?
Well, maybe, I think he said May or it's well, I don't know, May, June, maybe they back for that couple of weeks only.
Okay, so let us now leave this quiet and tranquil life that we know in the deep and return to reality of the surface world. Surface, surface, surface. All right. Myra.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we just thank you for a good meeting tonight and for the things that we were able to get accomplished. We just ask that you would help us stay safe on the roads tonight when we get home, and that you would help us with this upcoming snowstorm, that everything would go good, and we'd be able to have plenty of food and nobody gets hurt shoveling snow and that kind of thing. We lift up our young men and women that are in the military of all branches fighting to keep our country free. We ask for successful missions and for safety for these people that are sacrificing right now for our country. Just ask that you would take us home safely, and asking God to bless everybody here tonight, and may God bless the United States of America. Amen.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion, second? Second, so adjourned. Don't forget your flyers up here. I am going to send it out electronically, probably tomorrow or the next day. Try to get everybody to, I know Andy, you probably go to 1,000 different places that you can post stuff. Church would be another good place to post it, right? Good deal.